After a huge home win, the Lightning follow up with a win against the same team. What might be their biggest win of the season, but two more games to recap before Four Nations here on Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Josh Sperber here, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. And first, we are going to start with a recap of another win against the Senators. The Lightning have played the Senators twice this week, a 4-3 win on Tuesday, but the Bolts topped that with one of their best games of the season in a 5-1 victory against the Ottawa Senators with 3 goals in the final 5 minutes of the third period. And even John Cooper said that the Lightning made very few mistakes in this game, maybe the only one being leaving Amadio open in front of the net in the second period, and he ended up tying the game up on that play. But not too long after that, Brandon Hagel came up clutch for the Bolts once again, getting a goal to put the Lightning ahead. Andrei Vasilevsky got his second assist of the season and homestand right before a Ryan McDonagh just bullet of a pass right on the tape of Brandon Hagel that put him in a red carpet lane towards the net. Beautiful passing from the Lightning there. And then the third period was just domination from the Lightning in the final 5 minutes. It was just Lightning wearing them down. And then at the end, things just opened up, and 3 goals in the final 5 minutes with one empty netter. Just a great way to close out the game. I don't think I've seen the Lightning close out a game like that the entire season. Just the best game I think that they have played in terms of the third period. And alternate captain Ryan McDonagh was certainly pleased with the Lightning's effort.
A lot of positives for sure. I think we've got a group that understands where we can execute. We've got good structure. First period of our plays, we've been pretty effective. We got to play against time and time again. This last 2 games were really good against a good opponent, so we should feel confident here down the stretch for the break.
And he's absolutely right. The Lightning had a homestand that began at the end of January against some solid teams. It was a tough loss to the Blackhawks to start things off. Then they beat the Kings 3-0. And then another disappointment, losing in overtime to New York. And a bit of a rocky start to the road trip. But the 2 games that mattered the most, the Lightning got. Both wins against the Senators. It's not easy to have the same team in a back-to-back, and it's pretty rare to have the same team in the back-to-back, especially when it's the team that's directly in front of you in the standings, but no longer. The Lightning with 2 games in hand over the Senators, now 1 over the Red Wings, who are in 5th with 61 points. With the extra games in hand, the Bolts have the advantage over Ottawa, currently sitting at 3rd place in the Atlantic Division. And that is exactly where the Lightning wanted to be, with 2 more games against 2 of the next teams coming up. The Red Wings on Saturday, and then the Canadiens on Sunday. And those are 2 very crucial games for the Lightning. We'll go into that a little bit later on. But definitely a lot of things to like, as Ryan McDonagh said. Gage Gonzalez, certainly one of them. 3 assists over the last 4 games, and it seems like he's been involved with just about everything on offense. Got his first chance on the first line tonight and did not disappoint. This Gage Gonzalez, after his second call-up, has been playing some of his best hockey. Only 12 minutes tonight, did serve a couple of penalties, including one for Andrei Vasilevsky. But Gonzalez looked really good. He got a little bit of everything. A takeaway, a hit, a block shot, 3 shots on the net, and his third assist over his last 4 games. And John Cooper at the end of the game in the press conference was talking about Gonzalez and how he's really earned his way back to the Lightning, and is trying to prove that he deserves a permanent spot with the Lightning, and I think he certainly has. It seemed he wants to be a big part of what this team does going forward, and it seems like he has earned that with the way he's played on offense lately. I think he missed his track. He, as Cooper said, he missed his track leading to that Senators goal, but then got one back for the Lightning late in the third period that really helped the Lightning seal this game. Gonzalez got the secondary assist on Braden Point's goal in the third period that led to the empty netter, and then less than 30 seconds after that, Mitchell Chaffee scored his 10th goal of the season. And you got to give Gage Gonzalez a lot of credit for helping start that late game clinching rally that made this game look a lot more like a blowout than it really was. I mean, I don't want to detract anything from the Lightning win, but 3 goals scored in the last 5 minutes, as strong as that is for the Lightning, it doesn't accurately depict how close this game was, because this was really anybody's game until those last 5 minutes. Until Braden Point scored, I think the Lightning certainly had better chances in the game. I think they definitely were the superior offensive team for sure. But Ottawa still had some chances in the third that made the game pretty contentious, and the Lightning really stepped up, and just getting that goal really just, you could tell how much it just relaxed the Lightning, and they were to just play such easy, effortless looking hockey. And when you're playing that smoothly, when you're playing really that far ahead, and you can get that confidence late in the game, it can really lead to great things. And the Lightning got the Senators back because Lightning got an empty net goal late in the third period on Tuesday. Ottawa quickly got one right back and just made it a kind of frantic ending in the last minute there in Tuesday's game. And this time it was very different. The ending might have been a little bit frantic, but for the Lightning in a good way, because they were just piling it on the Senators and really making a statement about who the better team in the Atlantic Division was. And it's certainly the Tampa Bay Lightning. And they can really solidify that statement by continuing this momentum on the road. You've got the Red Wings, who would go into third place if they can take down the Lightning. And you just don't want to see that, especially after the difficulty in this game, how tough it was for the Lightning to really solidify their lead. And the Lightning will be making up a game on the Senators on Sunday against the Canadiens when Ottawa's not playing. Ottawa's got Florida on Saturday, so a couple of big matchups in that Atlantic Division. But the Lightning are certainly going to have their hands full with the Detroit Red Wings. But it's just another game that they have to win. I think if you look at the 2 games this weekend, I'm not sure if the Lightning can really afford to lose against the Red Wings. But that is something that we can talk about in the next segment. But, the biggest takeaway, I think, from this game is just the Lightning are not going to be a team that you want to face in the playoffs. This is a team that is exceptionally dangerous with their backs against the wall. And from the way particularly Ryan McDonough was talking, I mean, that is just how the Lightning played. They played with so much urgency and a desperation, as McDonough put it, that the Senators just couldn't match. They knew the stakes in that game, and now they have to realize that there are similar, if not identical, stakes in this upcoming game against the Detroit Red Wings. And that is what we're going to talk about next. The Lightning have another weekend back-to-back, ending a difficult stretch that the Bolts have had from the beginning of January. I think they've played more games than anyone in the NHL in 2025 so far. And it certainly doesn't get easier. Two divisional opponents. The first one that we'll discuss on this show will be Saturday's game against the Detroit Red Wings, another crucial matchup in the Atlantic Division for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Looking for tickets to your next big event? Whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, and I love it. And here's why. The curated deals make it super simple to find great tickets at a great price. No more sifting through thousands of options. I recently grabbed a super deal for a prime seat at a concert, and I couldn't believe the value. It was a steal. The seat view is a game changer. Before I even hit buy, I can see exactly what my seat will look like in the venue. It is so reassuring. And the best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with an easy cancellation option if something comes up. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And welcome back into Locked On Lightning. The Lightning continue their play this weekend with a couple of big games, one of them against the Detroit Red Wings, which even though it is easy to say the Lightning had their biggest win of the season on Thursday, it is also easy to say that this could be the Lightning's biggest game of the entire, series, if you want to call it. The Atlantic Division series, I guess, to end the Lightning's first half before the Four Nations break. A loss for this would mean at least a split against now the team right behind Tampa, and a win against a team on a 7-game win streak would certainly be huge for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Especially because the second game of that win streak, the second win in a row, was against the Tampa Bay Lightning, 2-0 at Little Caesars Arena at the end of January. And now the Lightning not only have a chance for revenge, but have a chance to further distance themselves from a division rival that might have the best chance of getting one of those last two playoff spots. The Lightning took care of business against the Senators, the team directly behind them in the standings. 2 back-to-back games, a huge win. But honestly, I feel like the meaning and the significance of those wins might be a little bit diminished if Tampa doesn't beat Detroit. Because if Tampa loses to Detroit, they're right back where they started. I think they'd still be in fourth place if, assuming the Panthers beat the Senators, because they've got that game on Saturday. So that's something that I'll certainly be watching while the Lightning take on Detroit at 1:00 on Saturday. But this is just another chance for the Tampa Bay Lightning, as John Cooper put it, to show what they're made of at the end of a difficult stretch, facing opponents that they need to beat.
You kind of have to look at it as, you don't want to sit here and say you're making a push for the playoffs now, but to sit here and say we got Ottawa twice, Detroit, Montreal, and we're all kind of bunched together. I can't say enough how we have to take care of ourselves on home ice, and the boys are going to get a little bit of a break here, which would be much deserved for the amount of games we played from January, second on, and so. It was kind of time to look in the mirror and rise to the occasion. We get to see what is our team made of, and for 2 games here, they proved they're made of a lot.
And I think that is a pretty excellent way to put it, because you come from a close win, two games honestly against the Senators, where I don't think the scoreboard showed how close that game was. The Senators get their goalie back. Omar has a really solid game, 35 saves, and the Lightning come out on top with a big third period. Well, really big last two periods, 2 goals in the final 2 periods, but the Lightning were chasing for most of that game. You know, the Senators took the early lead, a goal within the first 6 minutes, and it took till the beginning of the second period for the Lightning to get themselves on the board. You know, it seemed like they were having their similar woes. This was back on Tuesday, and then, you know, a great start, exactly what you want in the first period from the Lightning. You give up a really tough one in the second, and then, you know, Hagel gets that goal, and then the Lightning finish incredibly strong. And, you know, when John Cooper's talking about what the team's made of, that's the example. I mean, that is what shows it. Just grit in the late moments, knowing that you need this win. And that's the kind of pomp that the Lightning need to play with when they go to Detroit. You know, the Lightning have had 2 very different results against the Detroit Red Wings, a truly dominant win at home. The last time these 2 teams played at Amalie Arena. And then, I mean, just a really tough one. 28 saves for Cam Talbot. And, you know, so many solid saves that stopped the Lightning from a much needed win. And I think, judging by the way some of the guys, particularly Ryan McDonough, was talking, the Lightning, you know, have a bitter taste in their mouth from that last game. You know, that was, I think, for Detroit, I think that was a win streak defining win. I think that was definitely the confidence boost, the momentum boost, shutting out the Lightning after the Bolts beat them by 4 goals at Amalie Arena, and now the Lightning have a chance to make up for that. The Wings got their redemption, and now it's the Lightning's turn to do that against Detroit. I'm certainly not expecting a Lightning shutout, but I am expecting a Lightning win, because frankly they need it, and the way that they've played the last couple of games is showing me that, you know, this is just a team that does not want to lose right now. And obviously that sounds a little bit redundant, because who wants to lose? But what I mean is, this is a team that knows exactly what their place in the standings is, and they know the teams around them, and they know who they need to beat. And right now, that's the Detroit Red Wings. You know, and a really solid defensive and offensive team. A little bit below the halfway point, but it's going to be special teams that are key again. These are 2 teams with some of the top 5 power plays in the league. Lightning down to 5th after a tough month of January on the power play, and the Red Wings up to 3rd. But the penalty kill for Detroit is last in the league at 69%. The Lightning's penalty kill is 10th, getting a big boost after not allowing a power play goal to the Ottawa Senators in Thursday's win. So this is another must-win game for Tampa Bay. I think this will be the one that Vasilevsky is going to be in net. I'd expect Brendan Halverson to be in net on Sunday. I'm assuming he clears waivers. If not, it'll probably be Matt Tompkins, with Johansson unlikely to come back before the 4 Nations break. Anthony Cirelli is a question mark for Saturday. Cirelli did not play against the Senators, despite returning to the game in which he was injured on Tuesday. He was held out of the game against the Senators, did receive a nice 4 Nations nod like the rest of the Lightning players who are going to be playing in the tournament. But Cirelli did not play against Ottawa. The Lightning are hopeful that he'll be back, but no update on Cirelli after the win against Ottawa on Thursday. We certainly hope that he'll be back against Detroit because he is, I think, someone that could really help the Lightning with Detroit's solid centers. I mean, I'm looking at Dylan Larkin. That's a guy that I think Cirelli could do really well covering. But we'll see. Hopefully the Lightning don't go into the next game without him, but they do know the stakes in the next game. They do know how important it is, and it's not one that the Lightning can hang their hat on even if they win, because they've got another really important game against the Canadiens knocking on the door on Sunday to go into the Four Nations break. So one key game will lead to another. Lightning chock full of crucial divisional matchups. The Detroit Red Wings 1 point behind the Lightning in the standings in fifth. Lightning currently sitting third in the Atlantic Division. And after their date with the Red Wings on Saturday, they play the Montreal Canadiens, who do sit seventh in the standings, but they're 5 points out of sixth place and 7 points behind the Lightning in that third spot. So certainly within striking distance, and you could argue that even the Sabres, who were 13 points behind the Lightning, are within some semblance of striking distance. It's certainly the case with the Montreal Canadiens, who have really experienced a resurgence over the last month or so of the season, getting Patrick Laine back, and unfortunately, the 2 wins the Habs had against the Tampa Bay Lightning have been key parts of the Canadiens' rise in the division. I mean, Montreal seemed just as doomed as Buffalo did for a good portion of the season. And now the Canadiens are a dark horse to make the playoffs out of that Atlantic Division. 2 tough losses, 5-2 and 3-2. And the last game between the two sides coming up on Sunday. And this is another game that I think the Lightning have to win. I think the importance of this game is lessened a little bit if the Lightning can beat Detroit. I think that gives the Lightning a little bit of breathing room. Again, obviously you don't want to see the Lightning lose. The Lightning are still going to be treating this as a playoff game. But, the fact is the Lightning are a bit banged up right now. We talked about Anthony Cirelli. As John Cooper said on Tuesday, it seemed like pretty much every shift guys were coming off, a little banged up, a little injured. And it's really going to be after this game against the Canadiens that the Lightning have their chance to heal. But at the same time, the players that are healthy need to get it done against Montreal.
We're banged up, probably like most teams are, but we're hope we can get a little bit of healthy here, and you gotta understand it's just 2 more games. We have to dig deep, and you can't look ahead. You want to play all your games at home, but I'm okay with going on the road right now, and just get this team together, get focused, and let's take our best shot and see what we can do here for 2 games.
And I kind of like what Cooper said about, okay going on the road right now. Because I think the way he's looking at it, at least the way I see it, is a couple strong games at home. If there's ever a better time to go on the road than 2 straight wins against the team that was directly in front of you in the standings, I do not know it. Because, road trips is when the guys are seeing a whole lot of each other. And everybody in the locker room has to be happy after that Tuesday and Thursday game against the Ottawa Senators. It was the Lightning's most important 2 games of the season, and they delivered. Third time's going to have to be a charm when they visit Detroit on Saturday, and then they've got another tough one. They turn right around and go to Montreal on Sunday. So 2 really difficult games. And I think this one is going to be the toughest of all of them. Simply because it's on the back end of the back-to-back and ends a really long stretch of games for the Lightning. And it also could be even tougher because this might be the game where the Lightning throw in a third different goalie against the Canadiens. In game 1, when the Lightning were on the road against Montreal back at the end of December, it was Jonas Johansson in net. And then it was Andrei Vasilevsky at home. Vasilevsky is likely to go in the first game of the weekend back-to-back in Detroit, which means Brendan Halverson will likely go against the Canadiens. And it would certainly feel like a gut punch if the Lightning complete getting swept by a divisional opponent with 3 different goalies. I mean, that has to hurt. And it's a feeling that the Lightning certainly don't want to sense. But it's going to be a tough one. The Canadiens, though, have struggled in the last few games. A couple of common opponents in recent times. Lightning took down the Kings at home. That was the last team the Habs lost to. And one of the 3 games the Canadiens have won over their last 10 against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Their last win, though, against the Sharks. So the Canadiens are struggling a little bit right now. They've won only 1 game since that last game against Tampa Bay. But Marty St. Louis, the head coach, certainly knows his old team, and that can make things interesting. But this is another must-win game, and it's another game where special teams is going to play a big factor. You look at most of the games for the Lightning this season, and special teams is what decides it. And it's the 5th-ranked power play in the league going up against the 20th-ranked power play in the league, and 2 penalty kills that are right on par with each other. Whereas the Canadiens are also in the bottom 5 in goals allowed per game. So on paper, this matchup looks good for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, not even looking at the positions. You just look at the special teams and the advantage that the Lightning have via the numbers, and the fact that you've got one of the best offensive teams in the league playing a bottom 5 defensive team in the league. Numbers-wise, it adds up to a Lightning win. But for whatever reason, the Lightning haven't been able to get it done against Montreal this season. That December game was a rare time the Lightning were outshot, and then the Lightning came back, outshot the Habs 35-22, one of their biggest differentials in scoring margin. The Lightning got the first goal in that game, but they just couldn't hang on. The Lightning got the first 2 goals in that game, and the Canadiens finished it off early in the 3rd period. And that 2 losses, I think, that sting. But aside from the fact that it was preventable, that has to be one of the toughest losses the Lightning have faced this season, that last game in Montreal. And the Lightning are going right back to the scene of that crime, needing to win once again, especially if they don't beat the Red Wings. It's a must-win game. I think a win against the Red Wings would certainly ease the pressure on the Lightning a little bit, but it wouldn't change a single thing. The Lightning have been treating the last 2 games against the Senators as the playoff series, talking about that game, comparing it to playoff hockey for, the last week. And just because they're playing a different team doesn't change the magnitude of these next 2 games. A win in each of these next 2 games versus a loss in each of these next 2 games can really change the outlook of the Lightning season post 4 Nations break. You're hoping that after the 4 Nations, the team will be fully healthy. You're hoping that Cirelli comes back and is able to play for Team Canada in the 4 Nations. You're hoping that J.J. Moser comes back. He certainly is walking better. I remember seeing him limping after he picked up that injury back in December. I saw him after the game on Thursday and did not look like there was any kind of hitch in his step. So you're hoping Moser can come back after the break. Certainly no signs that he'll be back for either of these 2 games over the weekend, but he's been practicing with a team. So if he travels, it's a possibility. But regardless of the injuries the Lightning have had, this is another must-win game. The Lightning have 2 must-win games this weekend, and a win in both of them would really solidify what a solid first half of the season it's been, and that is something that will pick up on Monday. So Lightning have 2 must-win games, and you'll have another must-watch episode of Locked On Lightning coming up on Monday. But until then, I'm Josh Sperber, and I want to give all of you a big thank you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Lightning and making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. Now for your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure to give us a follow, a like, a subscribe. We really appreciate your guys' support because we do this show for you. So thank you guys for being fans and for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Lightning. A couple of big games for the Bolts this weekend. I know I'll be watching, so go Bolts and have a great weekend, everybody. I'll talk to you guys on Monday.